Hello and welcome to this talk about supporting audio on an embedded board. I'm Alexandre Belloni, an embedded Linux engineer at Bootlin. We are an embedded Linux service company, and while we are focusing on the Linux kernel, we also work on bootloaders and build system integration to provide complete BSPs. We also provide trainings, and all our materials are fully available online under a Creative Commons license. I'm also the maintainer for the RTC subsystem, the i3C subsystem, and I'm also taking care of multiple ARM and MIPS SoC families from Microchip in the upstream Linux kernel. I've been integrating codecs on many embedded boards, and I wanted to share how to achieve that. Let's have a look at the typical audio components on an embedded system. The main one is obviously the codec, with a various number of ADCs and DACs, converting the digital audio data to or from the analog signal. It is connected to the SoC by two different kinds of connections. The configuration connection and the data connection going to a digital audio interface on the SoC. This is called the DAI link because it's linking both DAIs, so the digital audio interface on the SoC and the digital audio interface on the codec. Finally, a number of auxiliary components such as an amplifier may be on the audio path to the connector, and all those components used together are represented as an audio card in the Linux system. The configuration connection is usually I2C or SPI and allows configuring the codec depending on the properties of the audio stream we are trying to play. The SoC digital audio interface is also a serial interface and can be called synchronous serial interface or controller. It provides or fetches the audio data to the codec in different formats, and this format obviously needs to be chosen in the set of formats that both the SoC DAI and the codec DAI can support. Some SoCs have a separate SPDIF controller, usually not used with a codec on the embedded system itself. The auxiliary components like the amplifier are optional, but need to be described if they are present, as they may be on the audio path and need to be configured. Some SoCs have both the codec and the amplifier on the same die. Typically those will be Class D amplifiers. Regarding the digital format, the needed signals are two clocks, the bit clock and the word clock. Then comes the data line for transmission or reception, and a supplementary clock, MCLK, is not actually part of the digital audio interface, but may be needed to be fed to the codec. More on that later. The bit clock is often called BCK or BCLK in the datasheet, and there will be one pulse per data bit. The frame clock have different names depending on the datasheet and format. LRCLK for left-right clock when there are only two channels, so that will be left and right, and FSCLK or FCLK, FSCK for frame or frame sync clock when there are more channels, and sometimes even WCLK for word clock. Its rate is a sample rate that is often called FS in the formulas. So that will be the typical 34.1 kHz or 48 kHz. The direct relationship between the sample rate and the bit clock is that BCK is Fs multiplied by the numbers of channels multiplied by the bit depth. This bit depth is at least the sample size, but dummy bits can be transmitted on the bus and have to be taken into account. Finally, MCLK, this clock may also be called the system clock. It goes to the codec and the codec needs it to work. So some codec will require that system clock to be able to use the control interface, so you may need to be able to provide it even when no audio is playing. And it may be supplied by the SoC or a crystal if your SoC doesn't have a suitable clock, or if, for example, it is on a system on module and there is no pin with that clock going out of the system on module. On last resort, some codecs are able to use BCLK or LRCLK as their clock. Usually the codecs will expect MCLK to be multiple of BCLK to be able to divide it easily. In that case, it is specified as a multiple of FS in the datasheet, and other codecs may come with plenty of dividers and PLL and may not care too much about the actual rate of their system clock, because they will be able to provide the proper bit clock no matter what is the system clock. One DAI on the link, either the SoC or the codec, has to provide the bit clock. It will be the bit clock master. And one DAI has to provide the frame clock. It will be the frame master. The bit clock master and the frame clock master don't have to be the same DAI, but it is typically the case. Codecs usually have a set of PLLs allowing to set a specific BCLK, and usually they will be used as masters, but modern SoCs have PLLs specifically to generate audio clocks, making them suitable to be a master. As said, codecs may have more than one data in and one data out line. This may be provided when a codec has more than 2 inputs or 2 outputs. You will get one line per channel pair. This makes it possible to use the codec with SoCs that don't support formats with more than 2 channels. The main drawback is the number of lines that will need to be routed between the codec and the SoC. Some codecs may also provide one interface for data in and one for data out, multiplying again the number of lines. And the example here is the Analog Devices AD1937, which has 4 data in lines for its 8 DACs and in 4 pairs, and 2 data out lines for the ADCs. It also has one interface for data in with the DBCLK and LRCLK clocks, and one for data out with ABCLK and ALRCLK. So in that case, well, they use D as digital, so that will be the data in, and A as analog, so that will be the data out. So for the digital formats that go over those lines, we have first left justified. In that case, what you have is the left-right clock, with left being level I. The data for a sample is starting as soon as the left-right clock level changes. As you can see in this diagram, there are more bit clocks than data bits to be transmitted, and this is fine. The codec will just ignore the extra bits and is able to tell when a new sample starts thanks to LRCLK. Typically you will have 32-bit clocks even when using 16 or 24-bit samples. Then you have write justified with the dummy bits in front of the data bits, meaning that you will have to configure how many bits have to be ignored, which is less convenient. You also have the very common I2S format when only handling 2 channels. The LRCLK polarity is inversed, with left being level low, and the first bit of the sample is delayed by 1 bit clock, meaning that the first bit after an LRCLK transition may be a dummy bit or an actual bit from the previous channel. It is not that important when working with existing SoC DAI or codec drivers, but it has to be taken care of when writing such a driver. DSP-A has only one bit clock pulse on the frame clock to synchronize, and data will start right after that one bit clock delay, with the right channel being directly after the left channel. Then DSP-B, where the start of data is indicated by a rising edge of LRCLK, and the pulse can be any length as long as it is at least low for one bit clock before rising again. Then you can have more than 2 channels by using TDM, with the most common configurations being left justified or I2S on TDM. In that case, you simply have more than 2 channels per frame by having a faster bit clock. In this example, you have 8 32-bit channels with 24-bit samples, so you end up with 256 bit clocks for one frame clock. The actual width of the pulse on LRCLK usually doesn't matter, and as long as you have one full bit clock transition. Finally, you have PDM, which uses a completely different digital audio interface with 2 lines, the clock and data lines. Such DAI is still rare on SoCs, but will probably get more common as it is used for digital microphones and microphone arrays found on virtual assistants, such as Alexa or the Google Assistants. In that case, the analog signal level is encoded using the width of the data pulse. To handle all of that, we have a Linux kernel subsystem, ALSA, which is the audio subsystem, and a subsystem, ASOC, meaning ALSA for System on Chips. Its main goal is to make it possible to reuse codec drivers in multiple different configurations instead of having each sound card needing its own codec driver. So it provides an API for codec DAI drivers and one API for SoC DAI drivers. So the components are the codec class drivers defining the codec capabilities, such as the supported formats, the number of channels, and the audio controls, like muting or volume. You can also have some routing or mixing controls. Some codecs are allowing, for example, to route input channel, channel 1, to DAC output 4, or even mix analog inputs and digital inputs to an analog output. Then you have platform class driver for the CPU DAI, defining similar capabilities, allowing to create this set of available formats for the card by matching those capabilities. This driver also sets up DMA because you definitely don't want the CPU to have to continuously copy samples from memory to the DAI FIFO. And finally, you have the sound card driver, integrating the codec and platform drivers. This was the topic of my 2016 ELCE talk, so you can refer to it if necessary. However, if possible, you should definitely prefer a simple device tree description of the card. So let's have a look at how to support that using device tree. So now most of the sound cards can be described using a simple audio card, and that will be using the simple card driver. So the device tree bindings are documented in simplecard.yaml, so it has been converted to YAML recently, and the driver handling that will be in SoundSock generic simple card. Since 2017, you also have a NoFgraph based binding that is available. It's documented in audiographcard.txt, and the driver that will be handling that is SoundSock generic audio graphcard.c, which is a bit different, but it's still less common currently, but yeah, it's definitely usable. Both of those required a few changes in the SOC DAI driver to be actually usable as is, and the changes that have been made will be, for example, selecting audio mode on the Atmel SSC, or now I'm saying the microchip SoCs, because the SSC can work as a simple serial interface, but it has to be set to audio mode, and before you had to actually always write your own machine driver just to be able to change that mode. And for example, the IMX has a kind of same issue, where you have to you have a separate muxing interface for the audio signals, where you can say, okay, the audio from that controller is going to those pins, and so this has to be configured, and now the OutMux driver is able to do that when you are using simple card. So let's see an example. Let's say that we have an ADAU 1372 connected on an IMXsys UL SAI, and so the first step will be just to enable the SAI and the codec, and in that case it's quite simple. You just say SAI2, I will enable that. You use the usual pin control for SAI2, and that's pretty much it. And for the codec, in that case it is connected on I2C, in that case the I2C1 controller, and it is at location 0x3C, and it takes an input clock, and that input clock is MCLK, so that's the system clock. In that case it has to be named MCLK, so that's what we did there. And in our case what we have is a crystal, so the crystal is also defined there. It is a fixed clock going at 12.288 megahertz. So that's pretty much it, and it's defining, enabling our CPU DAI, that is the SAI in that case, and our codec. So now let's describe the sound card. The sound card in our case will be simple audio card. You can give it a name, so that's basically what we did there. So simple audio card, a name, simple name IMX6UL ADAU 1372, and now we have to define how the link is done, so between our two DAIs. So that will be simple audio card DAI link. In our case we only have one DAI link, so you just have to know that you can avoid having that subnode, but well, it's a better practice to actually have it. We'll be using the I2S format, and the bit clock master is the ADAU, so that's the codec, and that's more convenient, and because we know that it will be able to generate both the bit clock and the frame clock from MCLK. So that's as simple as that. We have a CPU subnode and the DAI link subnode, and that one refers to the SAI, so that definitely means this is our CPU DAI, and then we have a codec subnode, and that one refers to the codec node. They have been named, but the name doesn't really matter. What matters is that the well, they have some aliases, and the alias doesn't matter, but what really matters is the CPU name for that node and the codec name for the codec node. So that's perfectly enough to have audio playing. If you do a play with that, audio will be perfectly working. It will be using I2S and everything will be fine. Let's go a bit further, because that codec actually has 4 channels, so it has 4 input channels and 2 output channels. And if you want to be able to use those 4 input channels, then you will have to do TDM, and in that case it's quite simple. We are just saying, okay, DAI TDM slot num is 4, and we will also set the width to 32, and in that case we will always be using 32 bit sample width, and the codec will happily ignore all the bits that are superfluous, or whatever you send that is not from your sample. So that's pretty much it, and in that case you will just have 4 channels of 32 bit, and it's still using the I2S format, and that will be perfectly working until you realize, for our third example, until you realize that the codec has an hardware issue and it will not be able to generate the proper bit clock when doing TDM4 and with a 32K sample rate. So in that case we change everything, and instead of having the codec as master, we just switch to have the CPU as master. So it should be as simple as changing the bit clock master and frame master. That's what I did there. Now I'm referring to the SAI to DAI. So should be working, right? But unfortunately the result is not really what you expect. When you try to play an audio file at 32 kHz, it's still complaining that it's unable to install the hardware parameters, and looking at the kernel log will show you what's happening. In that case, the SAI is complaining that it's failing to derive the required bit clock, and it's saying, okay, the bit clock is 4 MHz, right? And let's have a look at the clock tree, and with the after mounting debugfs. So the CLK summary will show you something like that. I removed all the clocks that were not interested, but the clock tree up to SAI2 looks like that. And basically you see that the clock that is feeding the SAI, well, there is no way for the SAI to actually divide that clock to get the proper BCLK, because, well, there is no, the SAI just have a small number of dividers, and nothing is fitting to divide the clock to get to the 4 MHz clock that we want. So let's solve that. It's actually possible to solve that using device tree, and in that case we want to both reparent the clock using the assign clock parents and property, and then to set the clock rate using assign clock rates. Just so that you know, the IMX6 UL has an audio PLL, so PLL4 is actually the audio PLL, and it has all the rates that you would want to be able to generate 32K, 44.1K, 48K, for example. And so that's the one you definitely want to use. So in that case, what we do is that we say, okay, the SAI2 cell, that will be the MUX selector for the SAI2. That selector, we say, okay, its parent will be the PLL4 audio div, right? and its clock rate is set to 196 megahertz about. And then we have the SAI2 clock that we want to set to 24.576 megahertz, and that is selected because the SAI is not able to divide by 3. It's only able to divide by 2, 4, and 6. So it's not able to divide, for example, 12.288 and to get the 4 megahertz clock, right? So and that will, well, after doing that, so this is assigning the clocks and everything in the SAI node. After doing that, you will get audio working, so that will be solving your clock issues. Now you have the fourth example. You have a possible cost reduction, and where the SAI is able to output its clock to feed the codec. So if you want to remove the crystal from the board, it's possible, and then you will save a few cents or a few dollars because you don't have to have that crystal on the board. So in that case, you will be assigning the clocks in the codec node, and this is the exact same assignment that we had before. You have to do it in the codec node because you have to ensure that when the codec is probing, that's when it will try to get its MCLK rate, and you have to have it set before the codec is probing. And because of the probe order, you are not sure that the SAI will actually probe before the codec, so you have to then now assign the clock in the codec node. So the other thing that changed is that the clocks doesn't refer to the crystal anymore, but it refers to the actual SAI clock, and that's pretty much it. Now you are feeding the SAI clock to the codec. There is one property that is specific to Freescale, so that's FSL SAI MCLK direction output, to say that that particular pin is used as an output. So now there is something that we did there, is that we have replaced a 12 MHz crystal to a 24 MHz clock, and this is actually working because the codec, that particular codec, has a configurable divider for MCLK, and it can actually divide it by 2. So, well, we found a solution with the SAI as master and without a crystal, so that's fine. So something that you can do, and that is not mandatory, when you were writing your machine driver, it was mandatory to do it, but using a simple audio card you don't have to do it. It's routing, and so that will be listing or describing the actual audio connections that are present on the board. And the first step there will be to define the board connectors. So you use the simple audio card widget property, and then you have some pairs of strings there, that will be the type and the name that you want to give to your particular widget. So then you have to route your audio from the codec to your board connectors, and this will be done using the simple audio card routing property, and this is also done with pairs of strings, and this will be sync and source. So in that case you have the analog ins of the codec, so A in 0, and the source for that will be line 0. You have two because line 0 is a stereo jack, so you have two, and they are going to two different channels on the codec, and that's the same for line 1. That is there multiple times, and it's also going to two different analog input for the codec. And then for the output, you have the headphone jack, so that will be your sync, and in that case that's my widget, and the HP out L and HP out R are coming from the codec, so that's basically the headphone output left and right channel. If you want to know what the codec is providing and what are the names that you should use there, you just have to look for the SoundSock DAPM output and SoundSock DAPM input macros and definitions in your codec driver. So what about the amplifier? If you have an amplifier on your board, well, it is supported using the auxiliary devices, and there is a driver for simple amplifier when they are driven by a single GPIO, which will be the usual case for amplifiers. So let's have a look at that. With switch examples, I took an example from the mainline kernel. So in that case, the simple audio amplifier is used. That's the first thing that is defined, and it has something interesting. It has a sound name prefix that will give the name for the widgets that you can actually use later when routing, and that's what you see in that sound node. You have the audio routing that is there, that is reusing the AU2 name. In that case, you have two ins and two outs, so AU2 in L, AU2 in R, so this will be the input, and AU2 out L and AU2 out R will be the output. And in that case, you see that the inputs of the amplifier are connected to the codec output, and the output of the amplifier will be connected to the jack, or in that case the line out widget that will be from the board, and that will route your audio through that amplifier. So let's talk about troubleshooting. What you can have is that audio seems to play for the correct duration. You just use time, for example, and to know whether a play did play for the correct amount of time, and you may not have any sound. And usually it's an issue when with the ASA control. So that's usually what you will get. You need to unmute master and the relevant control, so that may be digital, for example. And then you want to turn up the volume. You want to check your codec analog muxing and mixing, and that's exactly what could happen. So maybe you are listening for one channel, and it has actually the channel has been muxed to another output inside the codec, and so that's something you have to check. You also want to check the amplifier configuration, and obviously you want to check your routing. Just know that also for the controls, that's the case for the ADAU1372 codec that I used as an example. The default values for the controls are not doing anything, so they basically have some invalid muxing there. So you definitely want to set your own muxing when using that codec. You can also have no sound, but then a play will be stuck, and so it will time out. Then you definitely want to check pin muxing, and because that basically means that there is an issue in your DAI's configuration. So check your pin mixing, check your configured clock direction, who is the master, who is the slave, and whether the pin conf for the pins for the SOCs are the correct ones. Definitely you want to be able to check the clocks using an oscilloscope. Is your BCLK at the correct rate? Is your frame clock at the correct rate? Are they in sync? And then you want to check the data. Is the data what you would expect regarding the sync and the bit clock? Usually data and bit clocks are pretty much okay, but what you really want to check is whether the data is in sync with the frame clock. And then check pin mixing again, because it's always pin mixing. And like I said just before, some SOCs will have more mixing, so check the odd mux or the MCASP mixing, because that, well, you may not be sending audio or your signals to the correct controller. You can also get that kind of write error, so input-output error. That's usually caused by an issue in the routing. Something that I had even with an upstream driver was that the driver was not exposing a stream named playback, and that's basically the stream that ALSA will look for to be able to play audio. So if it's not there, then nothing will work. You can use VisDAPM, which will provide a graph of all your widgets that are enabled, and you will have a nice graph with everything that is enabled and disabled, and it will allow you to debug whether your routes are working well, or whether you have an issue in your codec driver, for example. Finally, you will want to troubleshoot the overruns and underruns. They may be caused obviously by a media that is too slow, whether when recording or when playing audio, but it can also be caused by an imprecise BCLK, and in that case you will want to try to find a better PLL and divider combination, just so that your BCLK will be more precise, which is not always easy or possible. Or maybe you will just have to live with your underruns. Troubleshooting a bit further, then you will want to have to know, well, to have a look at what the CPU DAI driver is doing. The callback of interest there are setCLK div, setCCLK, because that will set up the clock dividers, and then the main interesting one will be HW params. That's where basically the whole setup for your stream is done, and that's what you want to look for. setDAI format will also be of interest, because that's where you set left justified, I2S, right justified, or whatever format you are using there. So if you have an issue with your format, you want to look at that. The same thing will happen in the codec driver callbacks, where you have setCCLK, and in that case you want to look at what is how the clock is set, if you have an issue with your codec not generating the bit clock properly, because like I said, some codecs will be able to generate the bit clocks from their system clock, or maybe from the bit clock or the frame clock. In that case, that's something you will want, or you will have to configure, and that will be CLK ID parameter there. That will be definitely codec specific. So remember that using the codec as slave is uncommon, and sometimes it's just untested, and well, you may have an upstream driver and maybe nobody ever used it as a slave, and so this will just not be working. And when in doubt, that's what I usually do when bringing up a platform. I'm using devmem to set the DAI configuration that I want, and I2C get or I2C set to set the codec DAI configuration, which allows you to do that while playing a stream. And so, well, it's convenient because when you get the proper configuration doing that, then you just have to have a look at what's needed from the driver to set that configuration. Going further, once your kernel and device tree part are working, usually what you will want to do is split, let's say TDM8 or 4, so when you have 4 channel input or 8 channel inputs or output, you will want to split that in individual channels, or maybe in pair of channels, because usually what you get is stereo audio or mono audio. And this can be done efficiently in user space, and you will be able to do that using alzalib, and I will just send you to our blog that is describing exactly that, and it's describing how to do that efficiently and not have too much mixing happening. So some references, the Linux kernel documentation is quite okay. You also have an application note from Analog Devices that describing the various audio formats, and finally the I2S specification. I'm